Beneath the Nevada desert, a massive wall holds back an entire river. It is called the Hoover Dam, a monument born in the heart of the Great Depression of the 1930s, when humanity learned to bend nature just to survive. But behind its towering grandeur there lies another world. Under millions of tons of concrete, hidden corridors remain closed to the public. Deep inside, old machinery still hums, and the sound of water has echoed there for nearly a century. Within those walls rest the silent stories of the people who never returned. Tonight, we journey down into the heart of Hoover Dam, where the breath of the river still moves through the darkness, and the secrets that have slept for almost 100 years are beginning to stir once again. In 1928, when America was still reeling from the crisis and unemployment, the United States Congress passed the Boulder Canyon Project Act. It was a quiet decision, yet one that was powerful enough to reshape the entire West. The country was weary after years of dust storms. Banks were closing. The Colorado River continued to surge every flood season, both feeding and destroying the lands along its banks. People looked up at the sand-filled sky and thought of something unimaginable: stopping the river, turning nature into an ally. Amid despair, a bold idea was kindled, not just to build a dam, but to revive the belief that humanity could take control of its own destiny. In 1931, that idea became real. At the edge of Black Canyon, where the deserts of Nevada and Arizona meet, the first hammer strikes echoed through the air. There were no trees, no shade, only white sunlight and dry wind. Thousands of workers arrived, carrying the hope of trading their strength for a meal, a roof, and a future. They dug, they drilled, they blasted. Each day, they turned the barren canyon into a massive construction site. None of them knew that beneath that burning heat, they were writing one of the most excellent chapters in modern American history. Amid the wind and explosions, within the red dust of Black Canyon, a new symbol of America was taking shape. At first, it was called Boulder Dam, named after Boulder Canyon, where the project had been conceived. That name endured through years of war and recovery, until 1947, when Congress officially renamed it Hoover Dam, in honor of President Herbert Hoover, the man who had initiated and supported the project when it was still considered madness. Hoover was not merely a politician, he was an engineer. In his belief, engineering was not just a tool, but America's new faith, something that could lead people out of chaos through intellect and labor. The name Hoover Dam, therefore, is tied not only to one man, but to an entire conviction that technology could save a nation. Hoover Dam was not born merely to become a symbol. It was built with a purpose: to control floods, to provide irrigation water, and to generate electricity for the dry Southwest. The Colorado River, once wild and unpredictable, was now tamed to flow through 4 massive tunnels, winding beneath the mountains, then passing through turbines weighing hundreds of tons, transforming motion into light. From that current, Las Vegas grew, Los Angeles brightened, and the once cracked farmlands slowly turned green again. Hoover Dam did not merely block a river, it illuminated an entire land. When completed in 1936, the Hoover Dam became the largest concrete structure in the world. More than 4 million cubic meters of concrete were poured into Black Canyon, each block stacked like veins of artificial stone, woven with steel and cooling pipes hidden deep inside. The concrete was enough to build a road linking New York to San Francisco, or to raise an entire city. But what made it extraordinary was not the numbers. Each block of concrete was poured under the desert heat by the hands of nameless workers. Every layer of that artificial rock preserved a trace of human breath, a fragment of hope hardened through time. It did not just hold back water, it held faith, the faith that humanity could create something eternal in the desert. Behind the dam, Lake Mead slowly began to take shape. The reservoir spanned hundreds of square kilometers, making it one of the largest artificial lakes in North America. As the water rose, the surface gleamed like a giant mirror, reflecting the sky and the desert, covering the pits, the blasted rocks, and even the memories of those who had fallen during construction. It was a sight both beautiful and silent, as if nature itself bowed before the hand of humanity. In the mid-1930s, Hoover Dam became more than an engineering project. It became a declaration of faith. In the years when the dollar lost its value, when banks collapsed and belief was shaken, that wall of concrete rose like a single bright mark in the darkness. People called it America's miracle. A miracle not born of prayer, but of sweat, of hands, and of the longing for rebirth. Each stone of Black Canyon was carved. Each steel beam was lowered into the riverbed. Every redirected current of water was another step forward toward the future. They were not just building a dam. They were rewriting the story of a nation from despair to revival. Hoover Dam became proof that sometimes, to stand firm, humanity must learn to stand upon the very river that once drowned them. Today, when you stand before Hoover Dam, beneath the dry wind and the sun of Nevada, you can still hear the echoes of the past. The water strikes the stone wall. The wind whistled through the narrow gaps. And somewhere within that sound, the breath of those who once believed to see the future. Begin by building something greater than your fears. And they did. Hoover Dam was a creation of the United States Bureau of Reclamation and the consortium known as 6 Companies Incorporated. It was born from ambition and from the minds and hands of thousands of people. It was where engineering met courage, where blueprints met the breath of workers hanging from the cliffs. Every detail was measured to the inch, because even the smallest mistake could cost hundreds of lives. Before a single block of concrete could be poured, the Colorado River had to be diverted. That task fell to 4 massive diversion tunnels, 2 on the Nevada side and 2 on the Arizona side. They were drilled straight through the mountains, each one so wide that a convoy of trucks could pass inside. Thousands of workers labored endlessly amid the roar of drills and explosions under searing heat and clouds of red dust. The sound of the drills echoed through the canyon like the heartbeat of the project, steady and unrelenting. Those who entered the half-finished tunnels said they could feel the hot breath of the earth itself, as if the desert were resisting them. When the tunnels were complete, the Colorado River, once wild and untamed, was finally redirected. It left behind a dry riverbed where Hoover Dam began to rise, built from rock, from steel, and from the calloused hands of men. The first concrete blocks were poured one by one, layered like veins of stone created by human will. Engineers knew they could not pour one single solid mass, for the heat from the chemical reaction would have cracked the entire dam. Instead, they divided it into thousands of smaller blocks. Between those layers ran a network of steel pipes, carrying cold water to cool and strengthen the curing concrete. This internal cooling system, used for the first time on such a massive scale, later became a standard for great construction projects around the world. They said Hoover Dam was not just a product of machines, but of the human heartbeat. More than 21,000 workers contributed to the project. They came from every corner of America, from the dry farms of Oklahoma, the steel mills of Pennsylvania, and the crowded neighborhoods of Chicago. They brought their families, their tents, and a fragile hope for a new beginning. To house them, the government built a town called Boulder City. In the middle of a barren desert, a small community began to grow. Boulder City was a place of strict rules. No alcohol, no gambling, no music after hours. Everything was tightly controlled to maintain order and productivity. Each morning, buses carried workers out under the harsh white sun, along dusty roads toward the site. Each evening, they returned tired and silent, but the lights from the dam still glowed, a reminder that every day they worked had meaning. Night came quickly in that town. The wind brushed against the tin roofs, tapping softly like a distant drum. Some listened to the radio. Some simply sat and stared toward the construction site. In that silence, thousands of small stories were being written, stories history would never tell. On the dam site, the work was relentless. Temperatures outside rose above 40 degrees Celsius, and inside the tunnels, the heat reached 60 degrees. Dust and steam thickened the air, making it hard to breathe. But no one stopped. For them, Hoover Dam was more than a job. It was survival. It was pride. It was a way to stand against the storm of unemployment sweeping across America. High above the canyon, the men known as high scalers dangled from cables, carving away loose rock to make the cliffs safe. They worked suspended in the air, only a few hundred meters above the depths below. One hand gripped the hammer, the other threw the explosives. People called them dancers with death. In the old photographs that remain, they are smiling, bright and fearless. suspended between sky and stone. Their names were never engraved, but every strike of their hammers cleared the way for a miracle. During those long years, Hoover Dam moved like a living being. On the surface, the sounds of trucks, steel, and human voices blended together in rhythm. Beneath the canyon, the river waited in silence, pressing against the walls. Above, the red dust mixed with sunlight, forming a soft golden mist that wrapped around the entire valley. Everything pulsed as one, the pulse of determination, of endurance, of life itself. Then came the day when the final bucket of concrete was poured in 1935. For a few seconds, the entire site fell silent. No one spoke. They only looked at each other, knowing what they had built would last far beyond their own lives. There were no fireworks, no celebration, only the desert wind moving through the canyon and the sound of water touching the base of the dam, like the river itself whispering its thanks. Almost a century has passed. Hoover Dam still stands in the desert, more than 200 meters tall, strong enough to hold back the weight of a city's worth of water. Inside, the machine rooms, the corridors, and the pipes still hum quietly. What was once built with sweat still breathes, steady, silent, and proud. But within those towering numbers, there are still shadows that history has never named. The tunnels that descend deep below, the narrow corridors that few have entered. The old machine rooms are now sealed forever. Beneath millions of tons of concrete, stories remain untold. Perhaps within that silence, Hoover Dam is still alive, not only as a monument, but as a memory breathing beneath the desert sky of Nevada. When the sun sets over the canyon and the last light melts into the desert, the story continues in a place few have ever seen. Beneath Hoover Dam, there, behind layers of thick concrete and quiet darkness, another world exists. A world of engines, tunnels, and corridors that weave together like the veins of a giant body. A place where water and electricity live side by side, moving in a deep rhythm that has never stopped for nearly a century. Every step that echoes on the steel floor feels like walking through a land of power and memory, where people once made rock, water, and metal obey their will. The leading powerhouse lies deep beneath the dam, close to the level of Lake Mead. Two long rows of turbines stand silently like guards, each one taller than a 3-story building, still turning after almost 100 years. Between them run great pipes called penstocks, carrying water from the lake down into the generating station. Each time the water rushes through, the whole dam shivers gently, like a distant drumbeat from the heart of the desert. Not loud, not harsh, just a steady pulse, low and deep, that spreads through the stone walls. Engineers who have been here say it feels like standing inside a living being, hearing its heartbeat while it dreams. Above the powerhouse lies a web of corridors filled with cables, air ducts, and old sensors hidden in the concrete. Narrow iron stairways connect the levels, the railings cold to the touch, the doors heavy and thick as those of a shelter. Behind each door is another small world, a control room, a maintenance area, or a vibration chamber lit by dim yellow light. Every sound echoes softly, like metal singing from a bygone era. Along the walls, the control panels are faded, the switches are dark, and the markings are almost gone. Each passage feels like a path through time, joining the past to the present without a word. Most of Hoover Dam's inner structure has never been open to the public. Only a few areas are accessible for visitation. The rest remain closed, corridors locked for decades, entered only by engineers of the Bureau of Reclamation. Some old tunnels that once carried air or drained water are no longer in use, but still untouched, as if the dam itself is afraid to disturb its century-old breath. Down there, dim lights touch the rough concrete, cold air seeps through the vents, and human shadows stretch long across the walls like traces of memory. If you walk deep enough, you can hear something strange. Not machines, not voices, but the space itself is softly telling its own story. These passages were not built to impress, yet they have their own kind of beauty, the beauty of precision, of endurance. Steel floors darkened by oil, concrete walls marked by time. Light slips through narrow vents, cutting the dust into golden threads. In that light, every detail feels alive. A bolt fastened in 1933, a patch of paint worn down by countless hands, a number carved to mark the day the concrete was poured. There is no gold here, no marble, but in its stillness, in its simplicity, Hoover Dam carries the quiet holiness of human craft. One corridor connects two technical wings. Through a small round window, you can see the downstream face of the Colorado River. The deep water glows in silver, its ripples slow, as if breathing. Veteran workers say they can still hear the sound of the river, even when the heavy steel door is closed. It is not loud, only a gentle whisper, reminding them that behind these cold walls, the river is still alive, and it is the soul of the dam. Some deeper areas are forbidden. There are passages so narrow you must bow your head, stairways that lead down where no light ever reaches. Engineers say those places hold vibration and humidity sensors, the tools that keep the dam standing strong. But when you stand there, surrounded by water and concrete, you feel smaller than you have ever felt. Not from fear, but from awe, as if you were standing in the heart of an ancient creature where time no longer moves, and only the slow rhythm of water, metal, and memory remains. From the outside, the Hoover Dam appears to be a massive wall of concrete spanning between two cliffs. But inside, it is a hidden city, where every bolt and every pipe has its purpose. Engineers still walk those corridors each week, like guardians of memory. Every step they take is a step back through time, back to the hands that poured the concrete and shaped this monument by sheer will. If you stand in the powerhouse when everything is still, you will hear a quiet song, the faint hum of metal, the flow of water sliding through pipes, the soft touch of wind moving through narrow gaps. Together, they form a deep and steady melody, almost like a lullaby. And when you walk out again into the light of the desert, you understand. Hoover Dam is not just a structure. It is alive, still breathing, still keeping the river's heartbeat steady. Amid the echo of water in the machine halls and the chill of the narrow corridors, there is another place, a place that feels different, still, bright, and filled with the breath of another world. Deep inside Hoover Dam, behind layers of thick concrete and steel doors, there is a hidden room few people know exists. The floor is made of marble, polished so smooth that light glides across its surface. Every sound that enters seems to slow down, suspended in the air. On the tall, bronze-colored walls, soft light reflects off massive murals painted nearly a century ago by the artist Alan Tupper True. Alan was more than an artist. He gave Hoover Dam a soul. His murals tell the story of humanity rising in the age of industry. The worker, the current, the energy, the machine, all woven together as one symbol of strength and faith. Here, humankind no longer bows before nature. They stand upright, hands reaching toward the light, surrounded by circles of metal and motion. The colors are muted: bronze, steel gray, deep blue black. The colors of industry, of intellect, of hope. This room lies deep within the dam's central interior. Ordinary visitors never walk this far. A heavy door of solid metal separates it from the rest of the structure. It opens only on rare occasions, when engineers inspect, or when a guide is granted permission. And when you cross that threshold, the first thing you feel is not awe, but silence. A silence so complete it feels sacred. No water, no machinery, only light and art. The ceiling is carved with geometric designs, filled with stars and circles symbolizing balance. Alan Tupper True, inspired by Native American traditions, blended the Art Deco style of his time with symbols of earth, water, wind, and fire. Every pattern has meaning. Zigzag lines for lightning, circles for flowing energy, hands reaching upward, the bridge between nature and machine. It is more than decoration. It is a declaration in color and form that Hoover Dam was not just built to stop a river, but to begin an age where humans could master energy itself. At the base of the walls, dark polished stone contrasts with the warm bronze light above. When the light moves, the floor shimmers like water. The whole room seems to float between two worlds, between nature and machinery, between matter and spirit. Every detail feels designed to make you stop, breathe, and feel something greater than engineering. A quiet belief in the power of human hands. Some call this place the silent temple of Hoover Dam. There are no saints, no prayers, only light gliding across stone, and murals that tell the story of labor, faith, and longing. In that glow, one can almost see the silhouettes of the forgotten workers, the men who hung from cliffs, who poured concrete through dust and heat, who disappeared into history. Alan Tupper True did not paint them as individuals, but as symbols, hands lifting lightning, eyes turned toward the horizon, bodies merge with the heartbeat of the machine. Those who have entered this room speak of a strange energy. It feels less like a gallery and more like a place of remembrance. Standing there, you sense the meeting of steel and spirit, the quiet connection between human skill and human soul. Some guides call it the quiet heart of Hoover Dam, a place where beauty lies not in size but in meaning. There is no wind, no running water, only the cool breath of stone and the soft light rising from the past. Few have ever stepped inside, yet the room endures as part of a collective memory. It does not need to be seen to be real. Its quiet existence alone is a tribute to those who built the dam with their hands and their faith. And when you leave, walking back through the narrow corridor into the hum of machines, you cannot help but look back. Because in that stillness, it feels as if thousands of unseen hands are still there, touching the walls, whispering through time, reminding the world that even in silence, the human spirit endures. The air inside Hoover Dam moves with its own rhythm, low, steady, as if the entire structure were breathing. Deep beneath the concrete where sunlight never reaches, every sound grows heavier. The water flowing through the massive pipes echoes in long, deep tones. Between those echoes, the soft vibration of the machines hums like a hidden pulse of the Colorado River, trapped inside stone. Each sound carries weight. It is never loud, never sharp, only a whisper that has endured for nearly a century. The cold here does not come from the wind. It comes from the breath of the concrete itself. Moisture clings to the walls, leaving your palms damp when you touch them. The concrete smells of iron, of oil, of electricity. And there is another scent, the scent of time. You cannot name it, but once you breathe it in, you know this place has lived for a very long time. As you walk through the narrow corridors, the chill brushes against your face, mixing with the distant hum of the turbines and the faint rhythm of water. Each step echoes, then fades, swallowed by the space, leaving behind an even more profound silence. There are no voices here, no sound of doors opening or closing, only the steady breath of machines and water, repeating without fail for decades. Some engineers say that if you stay long enough, you can feel the heartbeat of the dam itself. You know when the water rises. You know when the turbines slow, all by listening. The Hoover Dam does not need a clock, because its sound serves as a measure of time, a rhythm that never breaks. The light in the lower levels is not white. It glows faintly gold, like the last trace of sunset trapped beneath the earth. Each lamp throws a long shadow across the walls, shimmering over the oil-stained steel floor. Sometimes a droplet of water falls from a pipe above, landing with a soft tick that echoes through the vast emptiness. For a brief moment, that single sound reminds you that life is still here. The chill of metal, the dampness of concrete, the smell of oil, all blend into a dense air, part industrial, part ancient, part memory. In the lowest levels, where the corridors narrow to a single path, the sound almost disappears. No machines, only the distant murmur of water and the sound of your own breath. The silence becomes so profound that you can hear the blood coursing through your ears. And that is when you realize Hoover Dam is more than an engineering feat. It feels like an underground city asleep. A city without people, without light, yet still alive. Each pipe feels like a street. Each service tunnel is a row of buildings. Each faint echo is the breath of unseen inhabitants. Everything remains as it was in 1936. There is no decoration, only purpose. But in that simplicity, there is beauty. The beauty of loyalty to time. Nothing is wasted. Nothing exists without reason. Every pipe, every crack, every streak of oil is part of its living rhythm. And within that cold machinery, you can feel something deeply human. Dedication, patience, endurance without pride. Sometimes it feels as if everything here is waiting. The steel door stands still. Light slips through narrow cracks. Dust floats slowly in the air. The entire structure seems to be listening to itself, ensuring its rhythm never drifts, not even by a single beat. The last engineer leaves, but the sound remains. The turbines keep turning. The water keeps flowing. Everything continues, as if time had never passed. Then suddenly, silence. Only the chill remains, and the faint breath of the structure as it sleeps. Deep within the millions of tons of concrete, there are rooms still locked, not to hide secrets, but to preserve the heartbeat of the dam. Those doors do not lead to mystery. They open into stillness, a stillness that has kept Hoover Dam alive for almost 100 years. When you stand before those doors, surrounded by the cold of stone and the hum of machines, you begin to understand. This structure never truly sleeps. It only listens to the river, to itself, and to the history that still flows within. When the Hoover Dam began to rise, the site was more than a construction zone. It was a test between humankind and nature. The Nevada desert, already harsh, turned even more brutal when the Colorado River was forced to obey human hands. Beneath the burning rock, inside the deep and narrow diversion tunnels, the temperature sometimes reached 140 degrees Fahrenheit, nearly 60 degrees Celsius. The heat came not only from the earth, but from the machines, the explosives, and the breathless air trapped underground. The air was thick, heavy, filled with smoke. A man could step into the tunnel for only a few minutes before sweat poured down his back, soaking through his protective clothes. They worked in a place where even breathing was a challenge. They drilled, blasted, and shoveled rock in tunnels without proper ventilation, where carbon monoxide from engines and dynamite filled the air. Many fainted. Many never woke up. Their deaths were recorded as pneumonia. But later, engineers and historians discovered the truth. They had been killed by carbon monoxide, a gas without color, without smell, that takes life in silence. The Bureau of Reclamation recorded 96 deaths, but those who lived and their families said the real number was higher, more than 112, counting the men who died before the project officially began, and those who fell sick from lung disease long after the dam was finished. By day, the desert burned. By night, the tunnels grew cold and damp. The air was thick, the darkness endless. Many workers said they could not sleep. Even when they closed their eyes, they still heard the drills, the explosions, the rush of water through the tunnels, like the heavy breath of a caged beast. Some fled. Some stayed because they had nowhere else to go. They earned only a few cents an hour. But for them, that work meant pride. It meant hope. It meant being part of something that would outlive them all. The most dangerous job belonged to the men called high scalers. They climbed the canyon walls, hundreds of feet high, hanging in the air by a single steel rope. Their task was to clear loose rock, drill holes, set explosives, and prepare the base where the dam would stand. Every day, they swung over the void, hammering and shouting above the roar of wind and dust. Below them, the river raged. Above them, the sun blazed. Between them and the abyss hung one single rope, their only line between life and death. When the wind swept through the canyon, the high scalers swayed like pendulums. They called to each other, voices echoing against the cliffs. The sound of their hammers was the first heartbeat of the dam. It echoed through the canyon like a living pulse. They were small, almost invisible against the vast walls of stone, yet they were carving the foundations of history. Accidents happened often. Rocks fell. Ropes snapped. Some men plunged into the river and were never seen again. But there were stories of courage too. Stories still told after almost a century. One high scaler once saved his partner when the man's rope broke. He swung toward him, caught his shirt, and held on until both were pulled to safety. They worked with more than skill. They worked with faith. Faith that every man on the canyon wall was tied together by the same single rope. Under the burning sun, they wore helmets made of cloth soaked in resin and dark goggles against the dust. When the explosives went off, they pressed against the rock, waited for the smoke to clear, and then went back to work. From far away, they looked like tiny dots moving against the canyon face. But those tiny dots created the solid walls that made Hoover Dam possible. Photographers captured their images, small figures suspended in space, working between sky and void. Newspapers called them the rope men of death. Years later, the high scalers became symbols of American courage and craft. In Boulder City, people said that without them, the dam would never have stood. On the eastern wall of the canyon, a small bronze statue was placed. No names, only an inscription. For the men who scaled the canyon walls, they never called themselves heroes. They said it was just a job. Someone had to do it. But time has shown the truth. In the desert heat, amid the noise and dust, they were the ones who laid the first stones for America's miracle. Hoover Dam was completed in glory, but also in silence. In one engineer's journal, a single line was written: "We built the dam, but the river and those who are gone still lie beneath it." There is no monument large enough to hold all their names. But every block of concrete, every echo of the water, still carries their memory. They were the ones who stood on the edge between life and death to raise a wall for a nation. And deep within the canyon, Hoover Dam still carries their sound. The faint rhythm of hammers striking stone. The quiet voice of the high scalers still working in the wind between the open sky and the dark abyss. Amid the massive blocks of concrete that make up Hoover Dam, a story has been whispered through generations. People say that during construction, some workers were buried alive inside the dam. Men who fell during their shift, covered by the flowing cement, disappearing forever into the structure they helped build. The legend was born from the brutal reality of the worksite, where death was frequent and time never stopped. Amid the roar of drills, the blasts of dynamite, and the rush of water, people began to imagine that somewhere inside those millions of tons of concrete, someone must have been swallowed whole, forever resting within the dam's walls. But the engineers who built Hoover Dam said it was impossible. The dam was not poured in one single mass. It was built from thousands of individual blocks, each only a few meters thick, with a network of cooling pipes running between them. If anything foreign were trapped inside, the concrete would crack, endangering the entire structure. Every pore, every inch, every temperature was measured and recorded with precision. There are no concrete tombs inside the Hoover Dam, at least not according to the official plans. Still, the story remains. Perhaps because it speaks to something more profound than truth. Among the tens of thousands who worked there, hundreds died without names remembered. They had no graves, no markers of their own. Their records sit quietly in the old ledgers, no faces, no stories. Perhaps that is why the tale of the men buried in the dam has endured for so long. It became a symbol of all the lives that blended into the concrete, of the men who, in some way, truly became part of it. When people look at the grey surface of the dam, they sometimes wonder, could every crack be a memory? Could every silent stone hold the breath of a worker long forgotten? No one knows for sure, but when the sound of rushing water rises through the turbines, it feels as if another voice joins in, deep, steady, calling softly from within the dam itself. In the 1940s, as the world entered the Second World War, the Hoover Dam assumed a new role. It was no longer just a symbol of engineering, but a part of America's defense. The power it generated fed factories in California and Arizona, factories that built planes, weapons, and the machinery of war. If the Hoover Dam had been destroyed, millions would have lost electricity. Production would have stopped. The Western United States could have fallen into darkness. So during those years, the dam was guarded like a military base. Soldiers patrolled around Lake Mead. Bridges were closed. Photography was banned. No one was allowed near the technical areas. The government feared that enemy spies or bombers might target the dam. There was even a time when people were told not to speak about Hoover Dam at all, as if it were a secret that had to be protected. Through those quiet years, the river flowed beneath the surface, muffled and restrained. At night, guards walked the bridge, hearing the water echo below them like the slow breath of a sleeping giant. The Hoover Dam had become both a symbol of power and fragility, for a single explosion could have altered the fate of the entire West. After the war, Boulder City, the town built to house the workers, returned to peace. It evolved into a small, orderly community, closely monitored by the government. No alcohol, no gambling, no noise. People called it the city without sin, resting quietly in the desert. When the work was finished, many laborers stayed. They opened shops. They raised families. They lived simple, steady lives. At night, they gathered around the radio for news or stood on their porches, watching the soft glow from the dam rise into the sky. That light was gentle but constant, like the slow breath of the dam itself. It illuminated the desert for miles, and for many, it was more than a landmark. It was a witness to their youth, to their labor, to their memories. Even today, Boulder City still holds that stillness. The small houses, the quiet streets, the dry wind moving through the desert, all carry the memory of the past. People still tell the old stories of the high scalers, of the men in the tunnels, of the souls who never had a name. They tell them calmly, without sorrow, as if these stories are part of life itself. Because to them, death and the dam are not separate things. They are bound together. When night falls, Hoover Dam glows between the cliffs. Thousands of lights shimmer across the face of Lake Mead. The river still flows quietly through the tunnels, through the turbines, through the same space that once burned with heat and dust almost a century ago. If you stand still, you might hear a faint sound, a hammer striking stone, or maybe it's only the wind, or maybe it's memory, still alive, still moving. They left no monuments for themselves, only concrete that still carries the warmth of human hands, and water that still flows, as if whispering in remembrance. Hoover Dam stands there between two states and between 2 centuries. It is both witness and tomb, a monument to what humanity can build, and to what it must give up to create it. Among the myths and the old stories about men buried in concrete and souls that never left, there is another secret. Not about people, but about the dam itself. A secret that was never hidden, only noticed. Because deep inside those millions of tons of concrete lies a network so intricate it has kept the structure alive for nearly a century. The cooling system. When the Hoover Dam was being built, the engineers discovered something. If they poured the entire mass of concrete all at once, it would take more than 100 years to cool. And in that time, the heat from the chemical reaction would crack the concrete apart. The dream of stopping the Colorado River would have collapsed before it ever began. The problem was not power, it was time. Human hands could not wait a century just to see water flow again. And from that challenge, an answer was born. One of the most brilliant ideas of the 20th century. Inside the dam, hundreds of miles of steel pipes were laid in twisting patterns between the concrete blocks. As each layer was poured, cold water from the Colorado River was pumped through them, carrying the trapped heat away. The water kept flowing for months until the temperature dropped and the concrete was stable. Then the pipes were drained, filled with grout, and sealed forever inside the dam's body. Because of those steel veins, Hoover Dam aged faster, cooled sooner, and was finished in only 5 years. Each pipe carried the life of the structure like blood through a living body. Without them, the dam would have cracked apart, and America's dream would have remained nothing more than a forgotten plan in the desert. Today, those pipes still lie hidden within the walls. No one can see them. No one can hear them. But they are still there, silently keeping the dam alive. Engineers who have gone deep inside the lower levels often say the same thing. Hoover Dam is not just a wall of concrete. It feels alive. It has a heart made of water, skin made of stone, and a circulatory system running through its core. A body built by human hands and human intellect. And perhaps that is the real secret. It does not hide in locked corridors or in legends. It lives in the details, where precision meets imagination, where mathematics becomes poetry, where science turns into art. From afar, Hoover Dam looks simple, strong, symmetrical, quiet. But in that quietness lies the wisdom of a generation that thought far beyond its time. The engineers of the 1930s did not just build a structure. They changed the way humanity spoke to nature, not with force, but with understanding, not to conquer, but to coexist. They did not fight the river. They made it part of the design. The same water that was stopped by the dam flowed through the cooling pipes, keeping the concrete alive as it hardened. And when the job was done, the water returned to the river, completing a perfect circle. A design that was both science and symbol, a balance between strength and harmony. What makes Hoover Dam truly great is not its size or its height. It is the way it exists. Quiet, precise, enduring, almost poetic. Every number, every block, every hidden pipe tells the same truth. That here, humanity reached the very edge of its own brilliance, not through noise or destruction, but through patience, through calculation, through the stillness of science. And when you understand that, you see there was never a miracle here, only human hands and human minds working together to build something that even nature had to honor. Hoover Dam stands as proof that even in the darkest times of history, human beings can still create light with their own hands. What once seemed like a mystery turns out to be intelligence. Maybe the secret is no longer hidden, but in the cool water that still flows through those buried pipes, there is still an echo. The echo of the hands that once touched eternity. Hoover Dam still lives, not with breath, but with the rhythm of water and light. And within that steady hum, there is a quiet reminder that sometimes the greatest wonders do not lie in what we do not know, but in how we make what we already know last forever. Since 1931, when the first drills rang out through the red dust of Black Canyon. To this day, Hoover Dam still stands, silent in the heart of the Nevada desert. More than 90 years have passed, yet its shape remains the same, as if time itself only moves around it, unable to touch its surface. From the burning days of smoke and stone, when thousands of workers dug tunnels, poured concrete, and hung from the canyon walls, to the quiet years after the war and into the modern age, Hoover Dam still breathes. It still generates power. It still holds the river. It still lives steadily within the canyon, as if the water and the structure have learned how to live together. It is more than a dam. It is humanity's message to nature, a living proof that even in the dry and unforgiving, people can build something that makes time stop and look back. If you listen closely, beneath the rush of water through the turbines and the whisper of wind across the cliffs, you will hear more than the sound of machines. You will hear the voices of those who came before. Their warmth still lingers inside every block of concrete, in every steel pipe, in every drop of water that flows through. Every miracle has a hidden part, the part no one sees. And yet, that hidden part is what keeps everything alive. Just like Hoover Dam, where the part we see is light and the part we don't see is silence. The part we see is glory. The part we don't see is sweat and tears and lives without names. Because the most incredible things often lie beneath the surface, in places the light has never reached. Thank you for walking with me through these corridors of memory, through the layers of concrete, through the echoes that never fade, through the mist and the light of a river that was tamed, yet never lost its freedom. As night returns over Nevada, the lights of Hoover Dam rise into the sky, shining like stars caught between two cliffs. The river keeps flowing softly, steadily, like the slow heartbeat of time itself, a rhythm that has lasted for nearly a century and perhaps will last forever. Now, only the sound of the wind brushes across Lake Mead. The water taps gently against the stone, and somewhere a deep piano note fades into the air. Let that sound take you back into stillness, to the place where past and present become one thin line of water beneath the moon. And there, in the heart of the Nevada desert, Hoover Dam still stands, not only as an engineering marvel, but as the heartbeat of memory, still echoing, still steady, still alive with the sound of the flowing river. And if you close your eyes now, you might hear it too, the sound of time, still moving, never leaving.